Today we're doing things a little bit differently, and I'm taking you with me to Sam's Club to check out a couple of things that caught my eye. But to make it more fun, I'm going to be giving each food item a pass or fail grade based on things like how many calories it has, how much protein it has or it doesn't have, things like that. But again, this is just for fun. So if you buy any of these foods and love and enjoy them, then by all means continue doing that. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing I came across were these garden veggie nacho cheese chips, and they sound like they would be a better alternative to regular chips, but let's take a closer look. So as you can see, it's 140 calories for 11 chips, which is really not a whole lot, but it is pretty standard as far as chips are concerned. So protein, it only has 2 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, and these still do have some added sugar. When you compare these to Doritos, which this is clearly meant as a healthier swap to those, there's really not much difference between them, which is unfortunate, but there really isn't much of a difference. It's pretty much the same exact thing. The ingredient list is probably the biggest difference between them. I think on the Doritos, it's, a little longer, a couple of things on there that you might not necessarily recognize, but other than that, these are kind of really not much different. So if I was in the mood for Doritos, I would probably just buy the Doritos. And if you've been here long enough, you know that those are my favorite chips and I absolutely love them. But these would be a pass for me. I would not buy these. Okay, the next thing I came across were these Simply Fuel protein balls, and these definitely look like a healthier treat, but I'll give them credit for using whole ingredients like oats, peanut butter, and whey protein. But here's the thing. So 2 of these balls, and they're not big at all, have 190 calories, 13 grams of sugar, and only 8 grams of protein. So I feel like that's a lot of sugar for something that's marketed as a protein snack. For me, I don't think I would have this as a snack just because I don't think that that's a lot of food for almost 200 calories and only 8 grams of protein. So I would pass on these. I think the way I would eat these, actually, now that I think of it, is I would probably take one of the protein balls, crumble it up into my yogurt, and have it almost like as a topping. It would cut down on the calories, and of course it would cut down on the protein, but I wouldn't view this food as a way of getting my protein in. So for that reason, I would pass on this snack. All right, up next are these Kind breakfast protein bars, and you do get 2 of these per serving. So it's 210 calories, 8 grams of fat, 28 carbs, 3 grams of fiber, 10 grams of sugar, and 8 grams of protein. I'm not a big fan that these only have 8 grams of protein and they're marketed as a breakfast replacement. I know a lot of people like protein bars because they're easy and quick, but I just don't think that these are it. I think that something that's marketed as a breakfast replacement should have more than 8 grams of protein, and it doesn't have a ton of sugar, but it still has more sugar than it does protein. And at 210 calories, I just don't think that this is very filling. I know the serving was 2, but the weight is only 50 grams, so they're going to be, small bars. I think you could get a bigger bang for your buck. And so for that reason, these are a pass and I would not buy them. Okay, I feel like I'm being really strict and mean with my rating, but let's go ahead and move along to these IQ Bar plant protein bars. So these are marketed as brain and body fuel with low carbs and clean ingredients. So let's go ahead and take a look. So these are 160 to 170 calories based on which flavor you eat, 12 grams of protein, so much better, 10 carbs, but because it has 8 grams of fiber, you deduct that from your carbs and you're left with 2 net carbs. So much better in comparison to the Kind breakfast bars, and it doesn't have any added sugar. So I really feel like these are something I can get behind. I can't speak for the taste because I've never had them, but these are definitely low sugar. It has real protein, it has a lot of fiber, and I think these are ones that actually deliver. They're pretty pricey though, so that would be something that would probably make it a pass for me. It's not necessarily something that I would buy, but if you're the type of person that just doesn't like cooking breakfast and you just want to grab something and go, then I think these would actually be a pretty solid option. And again, if you compare these to the Kind Bar, those were 210 calories. These are 160 to 170, and those were only 8 grams of protein, and these are 12. All right, let's take a look at these RX bars, and these are marketed as having natural whole ingredients and whole food protein. So they have 220 calories, 9 grams of fat, 29 carbs, 4 grams of fiber, 12 grams of sugar, and 10 grams of protein. So I like that you can recognize all the ingredients on the nutritional label, so that's always a plus. But I feel like it still does have a lot of carbs and you know, a little high on the sugar. It's not terrible, but I think it's because it sweetens with the dates. So if you're trying to watch your carbs and sugar, then this might not necessarily be the best choice for you. I didn't end up buying these, but I wouldn't necessarily give this a failing grade. I think it can have a place if you're looking for like an energy bar, but if you're trying to watch your carbs, then you would want to pass on these. Okay, next up we're moving on to yogurt, because that's definitely a food that you hear mentioned a lot because it's high in protein. So let's take a look at these Chobani, I think that's how you say it, flip cookies and cream Greek yogurt. These are 150 calories, 3.5 grams of fat, 22 carbs, 9 grams of protein, and 18 grams of sugar. So I love that this is Greek yogurt, but the cookie bits really do take this from like a healthy snack to more of a like indulgent treat or a dessert. This is not something that I would eat if I was just trying to bring up my protein. I wouldn't consider this like a high protein snack. I don't want to necessarily fail it. I'll say this, it's good for dessert, not necessarily as a protein snack. All right, let's go ahead and move along to this Chobani non-fat Greek yogurt. So this is 130 calories. It has 0 grams of fat, 17 carbs, 14 grams of protein, and 14 grams of sugar. So the protein and the sugar is basically the same. So I actually do view this as a high protein snack and have it probably like twice a day. Now, if you're watching your carbs and sugar, then you do have to be a little bit careful here. I think the serving size is 3/4 of a cup. I usually just have a cup. Now, I usually will have this plain, but on occasion when I feel like having something sweet or like a dessert or a special treat or anything like that, I will add different toppings into it. But then at that point, I'm not really viewing this as a high protein snack. And that's because whatever I added to it increased the calorie amount. So now the ratio is off. So if I have it plain, yes, I can eat this guilt-free, and I do consider it a high protein snack. So for me, this gets a passing grade. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Next up are these Fairlife Core Power Elite Protein Shakes, and these have 230 calories, 3.5 grams of fat, 8 grams of carbs, 0 to 4 grams of sugar depending on the flavor, and 42 grams of protein, and lactose free. I think if you're struggling with your protein and you're just having a really hard time meeting whatever your protein goal is, I think these have to become part of your routine, because honestly, at 42 grams of protein and only 230 calories, that's really impressive. I think for the convenience and the amount of protein you get, this is definitely worth the price. So absolutely, this gets a passing score. This is one of the best protein shakes that you can buy. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite high protein snack is. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye.